All right. So how's everyone doing? It's week 4, you guys. It's week
Four.
Yeah.
Yes, it is week 4. I hope it's week 4.
Okay, yeah, week 4. That's crazy.
Yes. How's California?
I'm still here.
Still there.
Yeah, I'm actually not gonna go back until like first week of July.
Okay.
So I'm just trying to enjoy my time here. Like right now, my boyfriend's at work, so I actually have time to fully focus on work and doing what.
Yeah,
So yeah, it's
that's
been
good.
working out pretty well.
That's good.
Yes. How's everyone's week been?
It's going good. Yeah.
It's nice.
Busy, very busy.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
can imagine, Amanda, especially since you're also taking
Hmm.
the pre-practicum.
Oh, no. Yeah, it's a lot.
You're
At least
probably like
it'll be
recording
over.
every day.
At least it's summer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, having it be summer has been such a big help because it's like I
Mhm.
don't really have to worry too much about like work and things like
Mhm.
that.
Yeah.
I mean, I still needed to do like my GT hours to like refresh it, but I got it done. So
Yeah.
we're good. All right, let me minimize the window and open up the notes. All right. So for this week, it was pretty interesting, having to join that online support group. I had always like heard about them, but never had I like had the opportunity to actually like join one and like,
Mm.
see what the vibes were and stuff like that. So I'm excited to hear about y'all's groups and like how the process went and how everything worked for the week. So the first question for today is 4 myths about working with multicultural groups are detailed in this chapter. Choose one of the 4 myths, define, and discuss its impact on the group.
I was kind of confused about this. I didn't know if we needed four, just choose one of the four and talk about that one in the group. So I just kind of piggybacked on whatever one y'all choose, even if it was different, just because I wasn't sure
Yeah, it's kind of
if we were
vague.
doing one or all four.
Yeah. All right, so Jessica A, if you want to share what you talked.
Yeah. So the myth 3 was talking about like the group member differences don't really matter. And to me, that like couldn't be more off base. I think everybody brings like their own experiences, backgrounds, and like ways of seeing the world. But if the group leader ignores that, it's not really something that's going to make for a cohesive type of group. It's going to bring more attention, and at times, I'm sure people would even shut down because if you are so closed off to anything that another person has been through, it's not going to make them feel safe or respected or anything like that. So, for me, that myth would just, I mean, if anybody led a group like that, it probably would completely shut that group down.
And I just piggyback off of what Jessica said that we are influenced by our beliefs and cultural interactions, no matter what type of group it is, whether it's a work task group or psychotherapy group. The differences do influence how the group functions, and the group dynamics, and such as like communication style, conflict resolution strategies, just to name a few.
Yeah, I really like the way that y'all talked about that specific myth because it's like if the group leader kind of just like glances over, it doesn't really like pinpoint like, okay, the differences and things that bring us together, it's like, what's the point? The whole point of a group is that all of us have our own specific like beliefs, values, and like, I guess, worldview of things. So what I decided to write about was another myth that kind of like aligns with that myth. I wrote about how the myth says how groups can be homogeneous and therefore focusing on diversity is unnecessary. And that is not true. Because again, the example that I decided to provide on the notes is that even though we're all school counseling students, we're all in the same school counseling program, that doesn't mean we're all the same like person. We don't all have the same goals in our professional and personal lives. So that's one thing that kind of like stood out to me with the myths, how it's really important to focus on the individual differences within group members. Like we're still a group, we still have like goals and things like that that we share, but that doesn't mean that we're all 100% identical or the same. So one of the things that I also wrote down was all group members, they're all unique, we're all diverse in a multitude of ways, and that could be whether through age, occupation, beliefs, despite the surface resemblance, for example. And once the group breaks through this myth, differences and similarities amongst group members can be identified and lead to more progress. Otherwise, I feel like the group kind of stays stagnant because it's like, okay, if we're all the same, then what can we latch on to and talk about? No, like we all have our differences that we share, and that way we can each kind of highlight our own individual goals and just kind of share our similarities and differences.
And I said, and I'm again piggyback off of yours because I didn't know which one we were choosing. So I just said that those are some strong points. So even if a group appears homogeneous on the outside, it's important to recognize that we all do possess unique experiences, strengths, and perspectives. And then if we focus only on our similarities, then we risk ignoring the differences that make our group special. And so that's important for us to learn. And so by embracing our individual qualities or individual differences, we do create an inclusive environment where everyone feels heard, respected, and valued.
Yeah, I agree.
I wrote about myth 4 because I was like seeing your responses. And I was like, oh, everyone kind of dabbled into like it all, but I saw that myth 4 wasn't talked about, so I was like, okay, let me jump on this one. So myth 4 was group work theories are appropriate for all clients all the time. And when I read that, I was like, oh my gosh, no, because before taking this class, I took counseling the culturally diverse, and that course was interesting, and I felt like it was perfect to talk about with this one because I had to like dive into different cultures, and I actually wrote a paper about Mulan, the princess, um, and because she's Asian and their beliefs. So I was like, okay, this would not fly. Like, it's not one shoe fits all for counseling, and uh, so I kind of like used my knowledge from that course that I took and I applied it here. But so like in East Asian cultures, I learned through the other course that they're more like communal um focused. So like they like us, like Eurocentric, or I don't know, I shouldn't say that, but like um we we focus when we do like group counseling, like self-disclosure and one-on-one or like sharing out. And for Asian Americans, like they focus on themselves like as a group. How is it going to benefit their group? And so it's very different for them. And so I just wrote that like if we do have a client, come across a client who comes from Asian culture or any other culture, we have to be aware about their cultures, their beliefs, and all that, because it isn't one shoe fits all. So I really liked that myth, and I really liked how it tied into my other course. So that's the one I wrote about.
I really love when that happens, when like you remember things from previous courses and it's like, yes, I'm so glad I read about it. You can like
Yeah.
just add it to like a paper discussion. That's good. But yeah, like what I got from this section of the chapter about the whole myths about multicultural groups, it's that we need to embrace like our differences, not just assume that like, okay, we're a group, we're all the same. No, like our differences is what makes us unique and what helps us kind of like learn from one another. And that's what kind of leads to question 2, where it talks about identify strategies most often employed to increase the awareness and abilities of group leaders and culturally diverse groups. So one thing that has always stuck with me ever since like the beginning of this program is the importance of self-reflection. Like you need to be able to be aware of like your own attitudes, beliefs, values, not just like about like yourself, but like other cultural groups, for example. So that way you can like challenge any like there was a specific word from a course that I took. I forgot what it is, but it's like when you believe something, but it's not like true, because like now like you learned about that specific group of people or something, like you need to challenge those beliefs, for example. So overall, what I kind of like focused on in my part of the notes is that you need to be culture centered. You need to have a culture centered perspective. So that way each group member, they feel that their diverse values and worldviews, they're appreciated and that it's a safe space for them to share that. Also, in order to achieve the level of awareness and ability, you need to consult with minority counselors, for example. Maybe start seeing if you can get in touch with people from a specific culture or something, so that way you can learn more about them. Just be open to learning, open to the knowledge there. Also have an awareness of different cultural worldviews, as well as a self-awareness into our own beliefs and values, which is like the major thing that like I can't emphasize enough. Because over time, the group leader will become more skilled as each culturally diverse group is conducted. So the more self-awareness you have, the more knowledge you gain, the more likely that you'll be culturally competent and you'll be able to help as many clients as possible. Because I feel like as a school counselor, think about how many like students you might have from so many different places. I live in Laredo, Texas, so it's like I don't really have that many diverse students. We're like 95% Hispanic. So I don't really have that much experience with like a diverse array of students. So that's something that I definitely want to like find the experience. So yeah, it's kind of like what I wrote.
I was very similar to everything you said, especially about the self-awareness and being open to learning. I think, well, like you said, like you're in a very Hispanic culture. So where I'm at, we are like a melting pot of everything because it's a military community. So we have, well, at my campus, we're about 43% African American, and we have about 20% Hispanic, 20% white, and then, like the Asian island, Pacific, and stuff like that. So we have a lot of different cultures, and it's very, very diverse, but you see it a lot. I could probably imagine, Althea, like you can connect with your kiddos a lot closer just because you guys, you share that, and it's a big mixture of that culture. However, like whenever you come to like a campus, my campus, you really have to get to know each culture individually, because you're going to be working with not only just, one African American kid or one Hispanic kid. You're going to be working with a multitude of them. And it also helps to really understand and like be open to learning their ways of doing things and how, how they do things at home. How is it different for you at home? Because when you get those kids together too, it's about learning for them as well. And it's not just, me as a group leader, it's not me knowing about them. It's getting them to be able to open up and talk with each other and actually like learn from each other as well.
Yeah, I completely agree with like everything you said. Which is why like I love to travel a lot, because I mean I've only ever been surrounded by like Hispanic communities my whole life. So like for example, right now in California, it's like a shock to me like how like culturally diverse it is. And I'm like, wow, like this is so cool, being able to see so many different people, seeing the way that they dress, the way that they speak. Like my boyfriend and I, we recently went to the San Diego Zoo, and even just there, the amount of different languages that I heard being spoken, it's like, wow, like all my life I've only been surrounded by either English or Spanish. So who knows what language they were speaking, but it was like so interesting to me. Like I really want to find like opportunities to like, learn more about other people, their customs or traditions, and just be able to like know how to help them. Because again, according to the book and even from other courses, each specific like African American, Hispanic, white, they each have specific like therapies that work better for them, and they have different outcomes. So that's something that I really want to like invest more time in, learn more, so that way I can be as culturally competent as possible.
I kind of said, the same thing, that make sure you're aware of your own biases and your cultural, racial identity. And so one way you could do that, I think we've all done it, is to do the genogram. And then, which can be a powerful tool for self-discovery if you've never really thought about it or looked back at your history. And then another way is just to increase their awareness and ability for working in culturally diverse groups. So I don't know if you saw it, but excuse me, I found a website that I put down. It's just really interesting, called the Culture Factor. And it allows you to select whatever country you want or region in the menu. And then you can put, like, I think you can put up to 4. Um, and it will give you the values of 6 dimensions. Like, one is power distance, and that means the attitudes of the culture towards inequalities. And then it'll show you individualism, which is, are they more like an I culture or a we culture? Kind of what Jessica was talking about. And then it'll tell you motivation towards achievement and success. So achievement and success versus the other side would be caring for others and a quality of life. And then uncertainty avoidance, which means trying to control the future versus just let it happen. And then long-term orientation, kind of how they feel about time-honored traditions. And then the last is indulgence. And that's the extent to which people try to control their desires and impulses based on the way they were raised. And so just for fun, I just put in like the United States and Bangladesh just to kind of see. And so, like the area of individualism, the United States scored a 60 and Bangladesh scored a 5, which suggests that they valued like long-term commitment to the members of their group and family, extended relationships, and loyalty, which is paramount and overrides pretty much other societal rules and regulations. And so the US scored a 60, which says, that we're more of an individualistic culture where society is kind of loosely knit. We're kind of concerned about us and our, primary family or immediate family. So I just thought that was interesting. You put whatever countries you want and kind of get a background, even though it's important to not stereotype any culture, but it does give you some more information. If you have a client coming in, you're like, oh my gosh, I don't know anything, you just click on there real quick or ask them. There we go.
What website was that?
It's called theculturefactor.com.
Culture Factor.
Yeah, and I put it in the notes so you can see.
That's really neat because when I was doing the other course, the culturally diverse, that would have been so helpful.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's really interesting. And now I'm curious, like, I also live in Laredo, Texas. I'm curious whether like what Mexico would.
Yeah.
I'm just very curious because I don't know, like you were saying, like it's also good like not to like stereotype certain
Mhm.
cultures because just because they're like that, like in the books, according to the books or according to statistics, doesn't mean that everyone is
Right.
all like that. But that's really interesting. And I kind of mentioned the same things that everyone did. I put that you have to be a really good listener to learn about other cultures, other groups, and like Althea, like we live in Laredo, so we have like no experience working with other cultures. Um, and if there is someone from another culture at school, like they kind of stick out like a sore thumb. Not in a negative way, but like everyone kind of, yeah, like they stick out and but yeah, I thought it was interesting in the book how it said like, you need to like kind of listen, like listening is very important and hearing what their beliefs and um their customs are. And then what was the other thing that I said that was interesting? Hold on. Hold on. Working with groups. Oh, how like as a counselor, you can't assume that you know like everything. And so like networking with other counselors who have more experience with other cultures and working like see what works best. I thought that was really interesting because I work in a big school, and so you can kind of tell what teachers more open to learning and what teachers like set in her ways. Um And I've always been that, like, or at least I hope I come across as like that teacher who's always learning, and like I don't just, oh, this is my belief and I'm gonna stick with that like forever. Um, I really like, networking and seeing what works best. So I thought that was interesting that they said that like it's important to network and stuff with counselors. Um, Let me see. I know there was one more I wanted to bring up, but I don't know, my brain is kind of lost right now. But yeah, those were the big ones, I think. I feel like I'm missing a really big one, but it'll come to me later, and I'll mention it.
All
Sorry.
good. As soon as it comes to you, just
Yeah, blurt it out.
pause it and say it. But yeah, I mean, everything that we mentioned, like self-awareness, really, really important. And I really like that you mentioned the networking because, again, that's something that I do want to work on, especially as I get into like the practicum and the internship part of the course. That way I can gain more experience with other cultures and things like that. So number 3 is discuss your experiences in finding an online support group. So kind of going back to like question 1 where we talked about like the myths and things like that. Um, what was I gonna say? Yeah. I figured like I want to look for a group that I can like identify with, if that makes sense. So I kind of wrote about how my experience was positive. Like I knew right away I wanted to look for a group where it was either like education related, like maybe teachers that are looking to transition their career from teaching to counseling. Because I know for a fact so many of us in the program, we're either teachers or we have some kind of experience in the educational setting. So I was like, what can I like search up? What can I look up on Google to find something? But then, like, I mean, I use social media a lot. So I figured maybe there's like a Facebook group, maybe there's, one of those private groups that I can join and find some resources. So one of the groups that I found was like a school counselor community. And I really liked it because as a current high school social studies teacher, um, again, I was looking for people with a similar background. So within that group, I found like a lot of like really interesting information that I'm hoping that I could also use to help me like find tips, tricks, strategies, techniques that I can implement in my future clients slash students. So one last thing I talked about, um, yeah, pretty much was that I conducted some research into finding an online support group where I can find something that helped me feel like I wasn't alone. Because even within meeting with our group, even like talking with our peers, I feel so much better that I'm not like alone in this journey. Because again, like it's a master's degree, it's hard, it's time consuming, it's a lot that you put into this. So knowing that, like, hey, if I have a doubt, I have a question, I could easily like message one of you, or I can message the group as a whole and we can help each other out. So that's been really helpful for me so far. So yeah, that's kind of like my experience. It was very positive, very different because again, I've never, I guess, willingly searched for a group. So it was an interesting experience.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it was like difficult for me, but it was just really kind of eye-opening to see like once I started searching, like there's groups for everything. I mean, so many groups out there. I actually joined two of them. I went with one that is educators support educators, and it's really just like a mixture of administrators and teachers and just a whole bunch of really different viewpoints, and that's really kind of why I went with that one because it's for me it's good to see things from like so many different viewpoints to really understand and support, whether you're a paraprofessional and you're in it or you're an administrator in it. Everybody's kind of strengths and even weaknesses can help each other out. So that was kind of why I went with the one that I went with. And then I also joined another one as I was in there. I saw like some people that were a part of another one as well, and there was a lot going on, and it's called Struggle to Strength. And it's with a gentleman named Kip Schubert, and he does a lot of like live things on there. He'll even come to your school and like, help your teachers with any type of struggles that they're having. So those were the two that I joined, and they've been very interesting, being a part of them and just seeing like the different conversations and kind of what's taking place within them.
Same thing for me. I mean, I don't post on Facebook a lot, but I go on there A lot. So I actually joined like 3 just to see which ones, I kind of connected with better. And I deleted 2 and ended up keeping one called the School Counselor's Desk. And I ended up choosing that one because it seemed to align more with what I was looking for. They did talk a lot about special education, which is like my big area. So I don't know, I just like that one the best.
I wrote that I thought it was hard, and that when I was reading everyone's responses, I was like, oh my gosh. But hear me out. So like at first I was like, okay, I'm gonna find a support group. And I was like, let me stay away from Facebook and Instagram because I do have those. And I know those are like more accessible there. But I was like, let me like just go on Google or like just and search like support groups. And when I think about like group counseling, to be honest, and I know I mentioned it, I don't know if it was in this chapter or chapter 8 or chapter 9, but they brought up anger management with Adam Sandler. I don't know if anyone, it's super old movie, but it's really good. But I think of that when I think of group counseling, I'm like anger management. Anyways, so I was like, okay, let me just pretend, like let me just put group counseling, and I didn't get anything, or if I did, it was like really hard because it was like, oh, see if your insurance will cover or like this or that, and there was like so many like hurdles, and I was like, oh, like it's because I honestly I wanted to attend one, like I wanted just to be in a Zoom thing and kind of be like fly on the wall, and like that was impossible. I couldn't do that, and I was like, dang, like this is hard. um and so I gave up on that. But then it kind of opened my eyes, and I was like, okay, if a person who actually needs or wants to benefit from group counseling, it would be super hard to do so. Like if you were just like Googling it, um, to find resources and stuff. And I'm sure like there are things like Scan and like a lot of like other known agencies that will like guide you, like, oh, like we offer this, that, and whatever. But I just thought it was like hard. So then I was like, okay, I'm gonna go to Facebook. And then on Facebook it was super easy, and I'm glad that it was easy and more accessible, but it wasn't like those to me aren't like an authentic, like group counseling session. And that's kind of what I was looking for. So that's why I said it was hard. Now if you're not looking for something like that's legitimate like that, then it's great that we have like Facebook and all these things where we can speak like freely and like kind of unfiltered. But yeah. Anyway, I ended up going with bilingual teachers and dual teachers. It's one group thing on Facebook, and that was really interesting to me because at my core, and obviously I do it for a living, so I want to perfect it. Like I want to be a better teacher. It's my 3rd year, so I have a lot to learn. Um, and I wanted to see what works best and if they have any of the challenges that I do or what works best for them, maybe I could implement. But yeah, and then I was like, maybe I should do a group, like a counsel, like for counselors, because I mean, obviously I'm a counseling student, but no, I was like, no, let me stick with my roots for now and just see how I can perfect my craft right now.
Yeah,
Sorry, I feel like I was going to rant when I talk like
you're good.
Good.
Loved it.
Yes. I
But
actually, sorry, I didn't want to cut you off. I actually kind of searched like you're talking about
Mhm.
before we did the Facebook thing, and I found one, I believe it was Peer Helper was the
Uh-huh.
name of it. And they actually do free sessions that you can join. They had some free ones, and then they had some that were like $7.99 to join
Yeah.
stuff. But they had a disclaimer on there that said, like, we don't want any students in here. We want like true, authentic people that need the support group for stuff. So I was like, you know what? Let me not join any of these because I don't want to be like, I would love to, like you said, be the fly on the wall and see like a true,
Yeah.
group session and things like that happening. But I didn't want to like just jump into one and like pretend like I had something just to be there or something. But I did search like you because I was like, man, this is really like this is difficult. Like if I really wanted like a group to join like immediately, it was a struggle to find stuff. And then a lot of them, the ones even on that peer helper, it was like, okay, we'll meet this day and then we don't meet again until like a week later. So it was just it was a little bit of a struggle whenever you're, like you were saying, like actually trying to go through something that's not social media.
No, yeah, speaking of difficulties and struggles, in my other class that I'm taking, I think it's Fundamental of Addictions Counseling, there was a discussion talking about group counseling, and it did mention that a lot of group counseling is moving more towards like the virtual kind of, format. But then you kind of think about it. What if the person looking for help doesn't have access to that material? And if there's so many support groups like on Facebook or Instagram, what about those who don't have social media? So, I mean,
Yeah.
there's some obstacles there that I feel that there should still be options, whether you want it like in the authentic in person kind of thing, or if you want to do it online for those that have like a busy schedule, for example. So I don't know. That was one thing that kind of stuck out to me in all that was said. All right, so we kind of already answered question 4, where it says identify the online support group. Again, I went ahead and joined the school counselor community, an online support group for school counseling students and school counselors. And going into question 5, from a professional standpoint, what is your rationale for joining this type of online support group? So basically, kind of like I said earlier, is like I wanted to find people that I can relate to, people that I can connect to. Because as a current school counseling student, I wanted to connect with other school counseling students and even already professional school counselors. So that way it kind of makes it a little bit easier to transition from teaching to counseling. I remember that even before I started this program, I went to Facebook. I don't remember what the group was called, but I had asked a question. I was like, hey, like I'm starting TAMU's program. Like, can y'all give me some tips or like advice? Like, what should I expect? So I feel that that in a way was kind of like a support group kind of thing. So I figured, let me find something that was similar to that because it was really helpful to me in helping guide me in completing this program. Also, I figured that it was a really good choice for me because it allows me to connect with others as well as like share insights, seek advice, and even find some resources. So as I was in that group, I was already bookmarking stuff that I wanted to use in the future. Because I mean, like, there's a lot in the textbook, a lot that I've learned so far, but sometimes you just gain so much more from people that are actually already doing it. Like there were some posts that said, hey guys, I have this group of students and I use this and this was really helpful. And people in the comments were like, oh, wow, can you share this with me? So that's something that I do look forward to continue checking every now and then. So that way I can like write down ideas and implement them myself in the future.
Um, so I think I feel like we answered this in the last one, but
Mhm.
um, my rationale for joining was, it's just other educators, like I said, and, feeling like you're the only one that's struggling sometimes, just to be able to have other people that are going or doing the same thing, going through the same thing, getting the same like type of burnout feeling that, educators get a lot. That was really kind of the reason that um my rationale for at least joining for those. But I mean, I think any of the groups that I join or that, that anybody joins, I think if you join them and like Althea, you were saying, you're looking at ways to help you grow as well. To me, like that's a big part of joining any type of online support group, whatever it may be. Like, if you're actually there, like be there to help yourself grow professionally, help others grow, and just be honest and real whenever you're doing that.
Yeah, I think it's beneficial to connect with peers, especially being in elementary school. Usually they only have one counselor. So I know you can feel kind of, isolated and by yourself. And so being a member of a group that you can relate to, I think you really get that sense of connection and community support that you need. That's it. That's
Yeah, like for mine, I know I mentioned it, and I feel like yeah, we did answer this already, but very short. I did join the Bilingual Teachers and Dual Language Facebook group. And another reason why I joined this is because even though I work at a border like high school, like we're right next to the border, I feel like it's so hard it's because I teach, so I'm part of English 1 in high school. So all the English 1 teachers are they just solely teach like mainstream English 1. Now I get the newcomers, and so they're like second year in the United States with me. And I feel okay, so in the whole school we're like 4 ESOL teachers. So I fall under ESOL because I get them like the second year in the United States. So I'm trying to like, it's ridiculous, and it's ridiculous when I say it out loud, and I'm like a big like, oh, I hate, because then they come to me and I automatically have to start with them like and teaching to the test, and I absolutely hate it, and it feels like an impossible task. But I've gotten better like to manage like that anxiety of mine. But we don't really get to network with other I don't, because I have an amazing English 1 team, but those teachers I can't relate to because my kids are super different, because their students have like the English background and mine don't. And so I'm literally breaking up every lesson so that they can connect with, or like I'm just scratching the whole stuff from the curriculum that we have, and I'm just like making my own, because they're like dying of boredom, because one, like the text is in like 9th grade reading level, and mind you, they're second year in the United States, so technically they're like at a 3rd, 4th grade reading level. And so I end up like spending so much money on teachers pay teachers, but I go on stuff of like what they can connect to, because I found that if I can just get them to like hang on to like something that really interests them, which is soccer, by the way. So we wrote tons of essays about Messi, about Rolando, and like they got the concept. Like they were there writing beautiful, um well, maybe not beautiful, because I don't like the way we teach the essay for STAR, but they got the skeleton of how to do an essay. So when they saw that the text obviously in STAR was going to be different, but they were able. So I was like, okay, if they can just connect to the reading, it's not torturous for them. So because I'm one of 4 in the whole school who have to like adapt or create their own curriculum, because there's nothing ESOL curriculum for us. I felt like this support group was like, oh, it has to be my holy grail, because I'm desperate. Like, and I tell my principal, like, we need something that's actual beneficial, because all the trainings that we have, like, I'm gonna be honest, they're just so like unrealistic. And I'm like, oh, I can't apply this with my students. Like, they're gonna be so bored. But anyways, yes, that's why I joined this group, because I can't be the only teacher who feels this frustration.
I feel your frustration.
Yeah.
Very sad.
Let's see. I put that I joined this group because many of the members in it were also getting their counseling degrees. So everybody had lots of same questions, but there's also counselors that have been there for a while, and veteran counselors, and so they shares their resources, they share professional development, and you're connected to school counselors in different areas, so you can get exposure to diverse perspectives that way. So I think really that's why I did that, because I could connect with that group. And I do feel your pain, Jessica, because I taught K through 5th behavior class. So, and I couldn't follow the curriculum either, because it was all whole language. You stand up and talk, but I've got kindergarten through 5th grade who are major behavior problems where they can't go in the gen ed. So I was like, oh, we need something,
Yeah.
because they're not going to sit here and read this novel when, on a fifth grade level when I'm getting them to read The Cat Ran, so
Yeah.
I was doing teacher pay teacher and all that. And finally, I just did my own thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah, I feel like we all also answered question 6. Basically, we all kind of have the same like motivation behind joining the groups that we join because again, we want to make those connections and we feel that it's going to help us grow, not just like in a personal level, but obviously professionally. All right, so the last question for this week has to do with ethical issues. So, what ethical issues may arise by joining or facilitating an online support group for students, and how might you prepare for such issues beforehand? So, for me, I wrote about how there might be like some technical problems that might happen, and that could lead to like possible breach of confidentiality, privacy, and then given that students, especially at like the high school level, sometimes they might have difficulty understanding like appropriate boundaries, for example. So those are the 3 issues that I wrote about in my notes. So what I said as a solution would be to just ensure that you have like a strong internet connection, because let's say it goes out, somebody else enters the room or something like that. You don't want information that's being shared within the group setting to be heard by others who aren't a part of the group. Also, just like what's emphasized in the book, it's really, really important to go over like group guidelines, group rules, procedures, things like that. So in the case of boundaries, it's really, really important for students to understand, the difference between professional and personal interactions, because you don't want to have like boundary violations. So the way that I would handle all of these issues would just be to set those clear expectations, guidelines, and rules so that students have a good understanding. And also, it is my duty to ensure that I provide a safe space to pose as minimal risks as possible.
That was very similar. I think we're all
Yeah.
pretty a little similar. Confidentiality is a huge concern, especially when you're dealing with young people, because you don't know if they're going to overshare. Are they not really going to fully understand, the risk of putting their own personal things online, or, whatever it may be that you guys are, having a group about or something. But it also needs to be like a space for them to make sure that they can share, but they have to be safe and they have to be respectful. So for me, I think if I was leading a group like this, I just, like you said, got to make sure those clear rules are put in place. There has to be monitoring of, the internet, whatever it may be. And then of course conversations ahead of time discussing that privacy and those boundaries. Because like you said, Althea, and it also said in the book, it's our job to make sure that the group is helpful, but it also has to be safe.
I said the same thing. I also said that if it's on social media, the group, then the online interactions, I think it's kind of easy to blur those lines between professional and personal relationships. So it's important that those boundaries be set up and kept. Then counselors need to make sure they're vigilant regarding ethical considerations and that anything they say can be seen by students, parents, other clients, administration probably. So we really need to be very careful not to share private information, or even if you don't use names, be careful not to share too many details, because kids, they can still identify who it is just by details. So I just be very careful.
Yeah, along this question, so I know it says what ethical issues may arise by joining. So by joining, I don't think there'd be ethical issues, but facilitating an online support group, I think, is a counselor's nightmare. But in like just in my like unexperienced opinion, because I think like okay, my high school, take for instance, like the high school students, and I know you've all said it, like, are the students gonna really understand, like, when we share stuff, that they're not just gonna blurt out some like false something like really heavy, which has happened in my class before. Um, But yeah, like I feel like there's so many ethical issues that could happen. And I know, like Althea, you were saying in the beginning, like how group counseling is kind of like moving towards online, which is terrible, I think, because because it's just I know we've come really far in our session, but because we're learning, I think, in my opinion, that we're counselors, well, we're student counselors, right? And we're learning. So obviously we have a different mindset of how to go by this. But like say we weren't taking this, like I don't think I'd be like super open just to share to like strangers. Like, and I feel like there's something not magical, but something worthwhile when you do meet in person because yes, there's you're vulnerable and it's weird, but there's something like really authentic about it. Like, I don't know. I think that would be a nightmare, but so I put that my first issue would be whether or not like the student has parental consent because that would be a huge thing. Like I could already see like parents getting all mad and oh well the student like forged the signature. I have the signature because that again happens in high school. Um, so that would be a huge ethical issue. And then the second one I put is oh, whether or not they are who they say they are. So I know obviously we have our screens, and we have our little name things. But imagine like one student just doesn't share their screen and like they're sharing this with the whole football team or whatever. Like that would be a nightmare. Like what a nightmare. And then I put the third would be whether the student fully understands the terms of confidentiality. Like are they mature enough? No. Like I don't know. I can't see it. I could see it in person. I can't see this online yet. But then again, I'm very inexperienced, so I don't know. And then lastly, it would be like a huge concern of students like recording, like screen recording. Like imagine there you are like sharing out a vulnerable situation and they have it recorded and then what it goes viral on TikTok or on Facebook or on Instagram and then there you are like I think this is a nightmare like this is a nightmare all around um but we are moving towards that so there has to be a lot to learn on how to properly get students on board and how to I don't know make them take it seriously. It's just hard. It's hard with young adults in my opinion.
Yeah, everything that you said reminds me of my first year teaching because I started during COVID. So it's like all the kids were there and they would just show this the ceiling fan. I
Yeah.
have no idea who's there. But luckily towards like the last half of the semester, I finally got to like meet them in person. And you're right. Like if you're just doing it online, there's like that lack of authenticity. Like you don't
Yeah.
get to like actually talk to the person. Like you don't know if like, what you're saying is being understood or like misinterpreted or something like that. But yeah, I mean, we're moving towards like a fully digital age. I mean, even
Yes.
with this program, I remember I was eyeing this program for the longest time, but they only offered it in person. So that's why it took so long to like apply and like do it. But then they recently, because of COVID, I think they moved online. So I was like, oh my gosh, like this is perfect. Like I can work, I can do this. So I mean, I feel like it's something that we're just gonna have to get used to.
Yeah.
And I mean,
Mhm.
imagine like technology has been part of our lives for a while now and we're still learning. So I'm just trying to catch up still to like certain apps and things like that. Like even me, like I don't understand everything technology wise. Even with Zoom, I still struggle with like the certain controls and stuff. All I know is just okay, camera, mic, record. That's it. I don't know anything else. I don't know what any of these fancy buttons at the bottom mean. So I'm not gonna bother.
Yeah, during COVID, I had to teach social skills to kindergarten through fifth grade online. Yeah, you know how difficult that is when, you just can't go up to him and be like, you need to sit down right now or something. I mean, it was just, I'm like, go put your shirt on, you got to be dressed. No, don't eat that banana right now. And unless their parent was sitting right there, which they weren't, because they're like, oh, thank God, 30 minutes without having them in my face. So it was crazy. I don't see how that would work unless they were really committed and the parents were really committed to make sure they're listening, we're taking this seriously, other than a time, hey, there's my friends, what you doing? What game are you playing? I'm like, I can see your video controller. So the game down. Yeah. But
Well,
yeah.
but even like it brings up like just the nonverbal things too.
Mhm.
Like eye contact. I might be looking at a completely different thing, but like when we're in a group like this, I can stare at your eyes when I'm speaking to you, but are you really even looking at me? Like, do you have the screen up? So, I mean, there's a lot of things like just you were saying, like it is kind of like it's scary to think about, like if everything is going to online, like how do you know what that kid's doing with their hands? Can you see their hands? Are they like picking at their skin? Are they, like those
Mhm.
type of things that you would actually notice if you were in person with the kiddos, you wouldn't be able to see as well.
Mm-mm.
Yep.
That's a good point. I hadn't thought of that.
Alrighty, well, I'm gonna go ahead and I guess begin concluding our meeting before we go over the time. Because I think she did say 5 to 10 minutes overtime without penalties, so
Oh, yeah.
You don't
45
need no
seconds.
penalties.
Alrighty, well, another very successful meeting. Next week's meeting is gonna be a little different, so just a heads up, I think it's another like 20-minute session kind of thing. So I would say like let's start looking at it, start brainstorming so that way we can prep. Also, one last thing, I didn't see that there was like a self-reflection for this week, so I'm just assuming it's just the group notes because they were pretty lengthy this time around. So
Yeah, it
yeah.
looked like it was just the group notes and the video and the session being turned in or whatever, because I was like, what are we supposed to do individually? But I didn't see anything on there.
Yeah,
So
alrighty. Well, I'll go ahead and share with you guys later the video once it like saves and stuff like that. What else? What else? What else? But other than that, is everyone already done with the notes? That way I can like put them away.
Yes.
Yeah. Alrighty, cool. So let me go ahead and stop recording.